Hey everybody. Since I'm already in this kind of weird emotional mood after shooting my first suicide video, I'm going to go ahead and shoot part two. In this one, I want to focus on more for people that have been affected by someone that committed suicide, loved ones, friends, spouses, whatever. I've heard so many people that don't understand it and they have a hard time dealing with it, and especially the people that feel guilty, like they should have known, or they feel like they should have done something. I want to speak more to those people in this video, but let me start with a story. It was, I think, the guy from Lincoln Park who had 6 or 7 kids committed suicide, and I was at work in the morning, and one of my buddies came up and he's like, "Man, that asshole, like, he killed himself and he had kids and he had responsibilities." And I go, whoa, wait a minute, man. Like, you're only seeing one side of the story. You don't know the other side. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I go, I see your point. If you have children, you need to do whatever you can do to be there for your kids. That's an enormous responsibility that I think people need to take very seriously. But there's another side to it. And I go, all right, here, meet me back here in like an hour at this spot in the warehouse. Because I'm like, how? In my brain, I'm like, how do I explain this? And so I drove around for a while thinking about it, and I came back. And I'm like, okay, we have yellow lines painted on the floor to separate like the rows of Corona or whatnot. And they're a regular yellow line, probably 5 inches wide, maybe 6 inches wide. And I go, "Do you see that line on the ground?" He goes, "Yes." I go, "Do you think you could walk toe to toe or heel to toe on that line?" And he's like, "Yeah, it'd be easy." I go, "Okay, what if I took a beam that was that same width and I ran it from one building to another building 40 stories in the air? It's the same width. It's the same thing. You're going to walk heel to toe. Would you just jump on there as easily as you just did and walk across it?" And he's like, "Hell no." He goes, I probably wouldn't even do it." And I go, "So tell me, what would, like your body, your system, your brain, what would it be doing if I told you had to walk out there on it?" He goes, "It'd be fighting all the way. It wouldn't want to do it at all." And I go, "Okay, so what you need to do is you need to understand that," and I don't know the case of that gentleman that committed suicide, but I know for me, it was the opposite effect of that. That urge that was telling him not to get on there is it's the urge to fight for life, to stay alive, to not do something crazy. Well, when you're sunk and buried in this depression, your body's telling you the opposite of that. Right now, as hard as it tells you to stay alive, don't do that, that's stupid, don't get out there. Well, my body's pushing me to do it. Everything in my being, except for that little light, is telling me to do it. It's telling me there's only one way to stop this pain. There's only one way to stop this darkness. And when you get deep enough, you can't see that it might get better. You can't see that it could improve. And it's this huge, enormous, dark mass of nothing that is just bearing down on you. Do it, do it, do it. Just do it. It'll all go away. Just do it. It'll be fine. If you do it, it's gone. Everything's gone. Just do it. Like, end this now. It's too much. You can't take it. And that's in my other video. I described how sometimes it would seem like I'm floating above myself, screaming at myself, "Why are you doing this? Why? This isn't you." And talking to a lot of other people about situations like this, I've heard a lot of stories about this darkness and this overwhelming negativity and just wanting to stop these feelings and these pain. So I know there's probably people out there that break up with their girlfriend and it's such a horrible thing that they commit suicide. And that's not, no way. No, I don't buy that. There's no way. Like, that's something else going on. But for the people that do suffer from depression and suffer from this type of thought pattern, from what I've talked to people, this is very common. And quite honestly, there's nothing anyone's going to be able to do. They can talk to you, they can try to make you feel better, but what they don't understand is when you're that low, when you're that deep in, none of that means anything. Maybe if you had somebody that could actually understand it, they might be able to help. Dave Mirra was a huge BMX X Games guy and just an awesome guy. Never heard a bad thing about him. And happy all the time. Like, he ended up blowing his head off, and it blew everyone away. And he had family and kids, and that one hit me pretty hard, because I did look up to him as a writer and a person. And like, I just thought, God damn it, why, of all the people I've met, why couldn't I have met him at some point? And why couldn't I have called him? Or why couldn't he have called me? And maybe we could have worked it out. But maybe he was in that same place I was, and he couldn't find that one thing to guide him back out of it. And maybe, I feel like if I could have talked to him, maybe I could have been that person. But it's hard to say what everyone goes through. I just know that this is pretty common from everyone that I've talked to. And for those people that feel like I should have done something, I should have known. First of all, I'm fortunate that I can talk about this stuff. So fortunate that I feel I must, because there's a lot of people that can't talk about it. There's people that go through this on a daily basis, maybe not 365 days a year, but they have spells, and they won't tell their spouse. They won't tell their children. They won't tell their parents, because they're afraid of what people will think of them. They're afraid of what people do. I mean, the last thing I would want is somebody to go, oh, he's suicidal, let's lock him up in a home. Yeah, no thanks. I'll deal with this on my own. And it's, so these people are afraid to say anybody. And that's even more exhausting. Feeling like this and acting like you're not, it does not help. It drains so much extra energy. And when you do get that time by yourself, it pounds on you. Like, it doesn't come gently. It comes like a crashing wave. And maybe that's some of the people like Dave Mirra, who had kids and a wife and was always around other riders, and he had to be the top guy, the funny guy, the good guy. Maybe when he got alone, that it crashed down on him, and it was so hard and so intense that he did what he thought he had to do. That's speculation, of course, but there's nothing anybody can do. Even when I get a little down now, and I try to be in my social media, I try to be completely honest. I have good days and I have bad days. And I want people to understand it's not all perfect. We all have good days. We all have bad days. Some days are worse. Some days are better. Some guys have great days. Some guys have bad days. It's all up and down. And it's okay. That's just part of life. There's nothing wrong with people that deal with what I deal with. It's just something we have to deal with, and some other luckier people might not have to, or it might not be as bad. I think everyone goes through downs. I think everyone goes through some level of depression. For some of us, it's more intense than others. So the question would be, what could people do? I think the answer to that is that we all open up more about it. I think the people that do deal with it start talking about it, and like, don't criticize somebody who goes through this, and don't freak out. Oh my God, he said he's suicidal. Okay, well, there's lots of different levels of suicidal. There's times where I get obsessed with it, but I'm not going to do it. It's just this thought in my head. There's times where I'm depressed, but I'm not suicidal. I'm just frustrated because I want to feel better. So I think not overreacting and just listening and maybe asking questions. If you haven't been through it and somebody brings it up to you, like, don't freak out. Stay calm. Think about what they're saying. Ask questions calmly and just try to let them talk about it and explain it. Don't criticize them. Don't ridicule them. Don't try to send them off to the mental hospital. I think that's a start. I think if we can open it up where people can actually come out and talk about it, I think that's going to help a lot of people. I think if people can get to the point where they can seek help. I know a lot of people often tell me, it's like, hey, if you're feeling bad, you can call me. Like, I have perfect strangers that message me and they're like, Chad, if you're feeling down, you ever need to talk. For me, talking doesn't help. It honestly just makes it worse, because then I feel like I'm making other people feel like shit. And I don't want to do that. I'll deal with it my way. I've gotten through it before. I've got so much of a better handle on it now. Like, I'll deal with it my way. That's just who I am, though. But I'm there. If anybody ever calls and says, hey, I'm feeling bad, can I talk? I will take that call. It just, for me, it's not a big thing. The talking, I mean, it's not a big thing. The talking doesn't help is what I mean. So I think the first thing is to be open to it. I think, there were signs even when I tried not to hide it. If people were willing to look. I have one of my close friends seems to somehow always know, which is weird because he's not really book smart, but you know who I'm talking about. It's interesting. Like, what do we do? I can't say that I have a full-on answer for that one yet. I think we start by opening up. I think we start by talking to more people. If I, that's one of the things, if I can grow this channel and it can become more of a full-time job for me, I might have some time. I would like to try to put together like a forum or something to get people together, and all us people that suffer, let's get together and talk about it and see if we can come up with some sort of plan to help other people, because it's still kind of an individual thing. What might help me might not help somebody else. But maybe if we could put all of our heads together, we could come up with some sort of plan, and maybe even come up with a place where people can go. Like, I'm freaking out, I'm losing it. I can say after my really bad spell, the story that I said in my first video, I made some promises to people that I wouldn't ever get that bad again, which is kind of ballsy, actually. That takes some courage to make a promise like that, because a promise is a very big thing to me. And then a few years after that, there was a time where it was like my depression was getting pretty overwhelming and the suicidal thoughts were getting stronger and stronger. And I actually went to the doctor and I told her, and I go, listen, I don't want to be on stuff for the rest of my life. I'll learn to deal with my depression and I'll learn to deal with this stuff. But I'm telling you right now, this stuff's getting pretty strong. And I've made some promises and I don't want this getting out of hand. So I'm asking you for a medication for a month, maybe 6 weeks. That's it. That's all I want, to take the edge off of this. And we found some stuff that worked, and it kind of took the edge off, and I took it for about 6 weeks. Kind of got my sleep back in order, got things back in order, and then I went back off of it. And it's been 5 or 6 years at least since then, and I've been fine. So, I mean, there's that option of maybe people who suffer from this need to try to find a kind of a backup medication where if things get bad. And I think, if we're in relationships or for our family, if we can talk about this kind of stuff during the good times, I think that leaves a little window for when it gets bad to be able to go, how we talked about this before? I kind of feel some stuff coming on. I just want to let you know and I'll keep you up to date on how it's going. And we've talked about what I kind of need from you to help me through this at this time, whether it be I'm going to be kind of quiet, I'm going to be kind of distant for a little while. Doesn't mean anything except that I'm going through this. That's all it means. I think there's stuff like that that can help. And I think just helping people be aware of it, so that, what if, say, Dave Muir, what if he had had that talk with his wife and his family, and he could have let them know that, listen, I'm kind of going through this and it's getting a little bad right now, so I might cut back on my public appearances. I won't be as open and talkative and positive, and I need you not to harp on me about that for a little bit. Which is, that's kind of a hard thing to ask of people you love, because you don't want them to have to do that. But sometimes we need to own up to who we are and what we deal with, and it's not our fault. It's just something we have to deal with. And it's up to that person to decide if they can deal with it. I try to be very, very open in any of my relationships. This is what I deal with. I'm not trying to hide it from anybody and then spring it on them. This is what you get when you get me. Take it or leave it kind of thing. And it's not, I think I should say, I love my niece and nephew very much. All of my nieces and nephews, non-blood or blood. When my niece and nephew were young, I was dealing with some bad stuff. And my sister called me up. They want you to come over. They want to play with you. I'm like, okay. And like, I'm in the dumps, man. Like, I go to the gym, I go to work, and I'm sitting at home in bad shape. And I thought, I used to always think, man, they're kids. They don't understand. Like, I need to go. No matter how hard this is, I need to go. And I would go. And I remember times where I'd be playing with them, and my mom would go, "You're not okay, are you?" And I would just shake my head again, because I couldn't explain it. And if I did, I would have busted out in tears. So I would just shake my head. No, I'm not good. Nope. And I would try to do what I could to play with them and spend time with them, which is hard. It's hard because after that situation, you're driving home and you're like, man, I know how much I love them. I know how much I care about them, but I don't feel anything. Like, you're dead inside. The only thing you can feel is pain, and that's more pain because you realize, God, I just spent 2 hours with them running around playing and I didn't feel anything. Like, what the F is wrong with me, man? How do I not feel anything? Yet you know how you feel about them, you just don't feel anything. And that's hard, man. And in my adult relationships, the people, the girls know. Like, they know. I try to fake it, but they know. They see it. And it's hard to try to explain that to somebody and have them understand that, listen, this is a spell. I know how I really feel. I'm just not, I can't, like, my body has lost the ability to do it, but it'll come back. And I think maybe that's why so many people try to fake it and try to get by, is they don't even want to wake up and accept what's really going on, possibly. I look back to how I thought about suicide when I was young, and wow, I was an ass. Like, I had no idea. I was seeing my point of view, and that was it. I had no idea. None. So, I wanted this video to be about and I hope it still is, the people that have been kind of victims of suicide, I guess. And please don't feel like there was anything you could do, because it's such a weird, deep, strange thing. I don't even know how to, man. Like, even trying to explain it here on video it's nuts. It's nuts. I hope that in some way I'm doing it justice. But, you know, in the end, that person has to be able to figure out whatever it is that's going to get them through this. They have to find whatever's going to spark that little light inside of them. And I don't think anybody can do that for them. You know, and I don't, you know, the people that think, well, why didn't I know? I should have known. Trust me, if any of these people are like me and they grew up with these feelings and they grew up with depression, they know how to hide it. They spend most of their life learning how to hide it and had tons of relationships and tons of items. And then they're also motivated by fear of someone they love finding out, and the fear that person's going to leave them, the fear that person's not going to accept them, the fear that person's going to think they're crazy. And then there's a side of the people that are more like me. I never really had that fear so much, but I just didn't want to put anyone I know through that. I didn't want them to have to deal with it. Me having to deal with it is bad enough. Why should they have to deal with it? So I would try to keep it hidden. And I found that don't work. That only ends up making things worse in the long run and makes the depression itself even harder. Because now you're trying to force it. Even with all my closest friends now, they kind of know that every now and then I'll go off grid. And, you know, they'll usually shoot me a text, "Are you okay?" I'll reply back, "Yep, doing good, just need some time alone." And most of them kind of get it now. But they only get it because we've talked about it. And because they've been around me long enough to know that that's kind of how I need to deal with it. So I just, please, man, anybody that's been through this, don't blame yourself. You're talking about finding a needle in a haystack. It's an impossible job. You couldn't have known. You're not responsible. You couldn't have done anything. To the person that truly commits suicide, they were going to do it no matter what. What I will say is let's try to get more open about this. Let's try to improve this. Let's try to create a place where people can talk about it and create an atmosphere where people can actually talk about it when they feel good. It's a whole lot easier to talk about when you feel good than when you're bad. I'm coming out of a small depression right now, minor. I can guarantee if I was depressed right now, this would have been a really, really, really hard video to shoot. Because like I said, you don't feel the good, and the bad is so intense, it's over the top. Like any ability you had to feel good, that power's now shot into the negative, and it's just dark and deep and bad and black and all that stuff. Okay, I hope this video helps some people. I hope it shined a little bit of light on suicide, and is bringing some awareness to this. I'm going to make more videos about this over time, because I do think it's important, and every now and then maybe I can remember a different story that can add a little more light to it. If you like this video, if you know someone who deals with this or has dealt with this, please, please, please share this video. I honestly, it makes me feel good to be able to help people with this, to help people deal with this better, to help people that have dealt with this feel better. Yeah, and if you have comments about it, good or bad, please comment. I mean, even if you got a point of view that I don't agree with, maybe I can see something in it and it can help me be better as well. All right, this has been fun. Hopefully have a little lighthearted next video, and I'll see you guys later. Over and out. We're done.